Last week we promised to bring you the next part in our series on pursuing God's gift, and we're going to do that next Monday. I've wanted to kind of interrupt that series to tell you about something that's happened in the last few days and my thoughts and reaction to it. On Wednesday, I got a text message from my mother, and I think it's very cute. My mom's going to be 72 in September, and I think it's very cute that she has embraced the concept of texting. But she still has a flip phone, so anytime she sends a text message, she has to hit a button 2 or 3 times to get the right letter. And so her text messages tend to be very short and to the point. For instance, on Wednesday at 9:30 in the morning, she texted me, "Have Dad in ER, we'll let you know what's going on." That's it. That's all I know. And I tried to call her right away to see what was going on with my father, and it would go over to voicemail, and I couldn't get a hold of her. And so at that moment, your mind tends not to worry about the emotional side. Your mind tends to think about the logistics. And suddenly you're thinking the worst, and suddenly you're thinking, I'm going to have to get plane tickets. I'm going to have to buy a black suit for Brody. I'm going to have to get Brody because right now my son is spending his summer vacation with his mom. So I'm going to have to call her up and apologize and ask her if it's okay if I take Brody to Michigan. So all these thoughts are running through your head based on this. And about, I guess it was an hour later or so, I get a hold of my mom and she calls me up and she says, it's a dislocated shoulder. And there is at that moment, oh, well, why didn't you say that? Why didn't you tell me it was nothing life serious? And even though dislocated shoulder is very, very painful, none of us were very worried about it because my father has always been somebody who breaks down and then goes back at 100% full steam. He's had 3, count them, 3 knee replacements. I think he's had a number of issues with his hip over the years. And so a dislocated shoulder, okay, this would mean that Dad would be uncomfortable for a few hours and then he'd be right back to work. And in fact, on Thursday, less than 24 hours after being in the hospital, he went back to work. So once we knew what it was, there was a big sigh of relief and then life went on. And then an hour or so later, after that phone call with my mom, she sends me a text message. This time it's a picture. And I'm not even going to show you the picture because it bothered me that much. The picture was of my father in bed at the hospital, in a hospital gown, just sleeping. I guess he was snoring away, and my mom thought it was funny, so she took a picture. But what scared me was, for the first time, he looked so old. He looked white, and he looked gaunt, and it just freaked me out. Now, I wrote about this. If you follow our blog, I wrote about this, about getting the picture. And I told you in the blog that instantly, after getting that picture and being taken aback, I went searching through my old emails for another picture about a year or so ago. And I totally forgot I even had this picture. But about a year or so ago, I got an email that was just a photo of a photograph. It was given to my dad. It was a badge that my dad got on his 50th high school reunion, and here it is. Now, this picture was sent to me about a year and a half ago. I totally forgot I even had it in my system, but upon seeing images of an old, withered man, I wanted to rush to this image and see my father as a younger man. Now I never knew my father when he was 17 years old, obviously. I didn't come around for another 15 plus years later. So I went rushing to find this image because, well, I don't know why. So I wrote about that on the blog, and since then I've been trying to figure out why was it so important for me to hunt down and go searching for this image of a guy that I don't even remember. And I think there's 2 possibilities. Certainly I know that some of my friends have lost their parents right away. It happens one moment they're here and then the next moment they're gone. And that's a horrible thing to face. For the rest of us, though, we tend to lose our parents inch by inch, one step at a time. We were in Austin, Texas back in October, and my brother-in-law and my nephews and my son we're going to go down to fish on Lake Travis. And in order to get from the house we were in to the lake, they had to take an elevator down. And there they are. That's a picture of them going down. The elevator, though, would only take them about halfway. And then when they got off, they had to go down a set of 20 or 30 stairs that were probably on a 70% angle. Very steep climb. And my father wanted to go with them. But because of his knee replacements and his hip problems, he couldn't have made it up the stairs. And I remember, as watching my family go down, I stayed up with my dad, and I remember realizing that a part of his life was over. And I thought about that, and I've been thinking about, well, how is the shoulder? What part of his life will this new problems with his shoulder end? It's going to mean, and I don't know the answer to that, but it's going to mean that he's now going to be able to no longer do things that he used to do without a certain amount of pain. So on Wednesday, even though he's okay, and as I said, he went back to work 24 hours later, this is going to have long-term effects, and a part of his life, or parts of his life, are gone. He doesn't have the mobility. And the other reason I think I rushed to see that young picture is I always thought, you know, you grow up preparing yourself that one day your parents aren't going to be there. But I always thought it would happen when they had served their purpose. I know that's a horrible way to say that, but I always kind of thought it would be like, you know, a middle-aged Prince Charles with an elderly Queen Elizabeth, and, you know, tick, 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 lady, come on, I got things to do. When are you going to, you know, and I know that's horribly insensitive, but the point is, I always thought that your parents would die when you no longer needed them. And here I was looking at the first picture, the one I didn't show you, of my father in the hospital bed, realizing I still need my dad, still need my mom. And it's too soon for anything to happen to them. It really scared me. And I was going to call and text my mom to tell them that I still needed them. But like my mom, I still have a flip phone, so it would have taken a half an hour. Next week, we're going to get back on track. We're going to resume our series on finding your spiritual sweet spot. And we're going to tell you, or at least we're going to introduce you to my friend, Benny Hill. That is a little song called Take 5. It is one of my favorite jazz tunes ever, one of the most popular jazz recordings ever made. Benny played it for us. He is a full-time saxophone player, but he will tell you there are compromises that come with pursuing your gifts.
There's always compromises. There's always compromises.
Next week, you'll meet Benny Hill. I'm Doug Wahl in Wilmington, North Carolina. God bless.